Maria Gonzalez woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. The clock read 5:30 a.m. Still half asleep, she reached for it and saw her mother's name on the screen. "Mom, is everything okay?" Maria asked, immediately concerned. Her mother never called this early. "I'm so sorry, honey. I have a terrible fever and can't take Jaden today," her mother said, her voice weak and raspy. "I don't want him catching whatever this is." Maria sat up straight, now fully awake. Her mind raced through options. Her mother was her primary childcare solution, while she worked her job as an administrative assistant at Carson Financial Services. At 8 years old, Jaden was too young to stay home alone, and Maria had an important client meeting that morning. "Don't worry about us. Mom, just take care of yourself," Maria said, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. "Take your medicine and rest. I'll figure something out." After hanging up, Maria quickly dialed the after-school program that sometimes took kids for full days during emergencies. The recorded message made her heart sink. "Our facility is closed today due to plumbing issues. We apologize for any inconvenience." "Jaden, honey, time to get up," Maria called, walking into her son's room. The walls were covered with solar system posters and drawings of rockets. Jaden was obsessed with space and dreamed of becoming an astronaut. Jaden stirred under his blue constellation bedspread. "Already?" he mumbled. "We have a change of plans today," Maria said, sitting on the edge of his bed. "Grandma isn't feeling well, and the after-school program is closed. I need to go to work, and I might need to take you with me." Jaden's eyes opened wide. "Really? I get to see where you work?" Maria bit her lip. Company policy strictly prohibited bringing children to the office, but she was out of options. "Yes, but it's very important that you're on your absolute best behavior. You'll need to be very quiet and do your homework or read. This is a grown-up place where people are working. I'll be super good, Mom, promise." Jaden sat up, suddenly energized. "Can I bring my space encyclopedia?" "Of course. And your school tablet for homework. And maybe some drawing supplies, but nothing noisy." As they rushed through their morning routine, Maria packed extra snacks and activities to keep Jaden occupied. She chose his most professional outfit, khaki pants and a button-up shirt he usually wore for special occasions. Meanwhile, she put on her navy blue blazer and pencil skirt, her standard office attire. "Remember, this is only for today," Maria explained as they got into their old Honda. "Tomorrow we'll figure out something else." On the drive to Carson Financial, Maria rehearsed explanations in her head. Maybe she could ask to work from the small conference room at the end of the hall where Jaden wouldn't disturb anyone. Or perhaps her co-worker Lisa might let them use her office while she was out meeting clients. "Mom, are you okay? You're squeezing the steering wheel really tight," Jaden said, noticing her white knuckles. Maria forced herself to relax her grip. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking about work stuff." They arrived at the office building 30 minutes early. Maria's plan was to get Jaden settled before most people arrived. The Carson Financial Services office occupied the 4th floor of a glass and steel building downtown. As they rode the elevator up, Maria knelt down to Jaden's level. "Remember what we talked about? Quiet voice, best behavior. If anyone asks, you're only here for the morning until I can make other arrangements." Jaden nodded solemnly, clutching his backpack straps. "I'll make you proud, Mom." The office was mostly empty when they arrived. Maria quickly led Jaden to her cubicle, which was thankfully in a back corner away from the main traffic areas. She arranged a chair for him beside her desk and set up his tablet, books, and drawing supplies. "If you need anything, just whisper to me, okay? Don't wander around the office," Maria instructed as she booted up her computer. "Got it," Jaden whispered, already opening his space encyclopedia. As the office began filling with employees, Maria tried to appear normal while constantly glancing at Jaden. He was being remarkably well-behaved, quietly reading or drawing stars and planets on his notepad. A few coworkers noticed him but simply smiled or waved, seeming to understand Maria's predicament. By 9:30 a.m., Maria had managed to complete most of her morning tasks while keeping Jaden occupied. The client meeting was scheduled for 11 a.m., which meant she would need to leave Jaden at her desk while she was in the conference room. She was just explaining this to him when Lisa from the next cubicle leaned over. "Is this your famous space explorer I've heard so much about?" Lisa asked with a warm smile. "Yes, this is Jaden," Maria said gratefully. "My mom is sick today and the after-school program is closed. I had nowhere else for him to go." Lisa winked at Jaden. "Well, I'm glad to finally meet you, Space Cadet. Your mom talks about you all the time. Jaden beamed at the recognition. Do you like space too? Who doesn't? Listen, Maria, I can keep an eye on him during your meeting. My desk is quiet today. Relief flooded through Maria. Are you sure? That would be amazing. Their conversation was interrupted by the sharp voice of Richard Parker, the department head. Maria, what is going on here? Maria turned to see Richard standing at her cubicle entrance, his arms crossed and eyebrows furrowed. He was in his mid-50s with graying hair and always wore impeccably pressed suits. Known for his strict adherence to company policies, Richard was respected but not particularly well-liked among the staff. Mr. Parker, I'm so sorry. This is my son Jaden. My childcare fell through this morning, both my mother and the after-school program. I have the client presentation at 11, and I had no other options. Richard's expression remained stern. You know company policy prohibits bringing children to the workplace. This is an insurance liability, not to mention a distraction. It's just for today, sir. He's being very quiet, and I've brought plenty to keep him occupied. I'll find another arrangement for tomorrow. Richard looked at Jaden, who had shrunk into his chair, eyes wide. This is still unacceptable. You should have called in to use a personal day instead. I couldn't miss the Westbrook presentation, Maria explained, her voice steady despite her racing heart. They're our biggest potential client this quarter. I've been preparing for weeks. Lisa spoke up from her cubicle. Richard, I've offered to watch him during Maria's meeting. He's not bothering anyone. Richard's jaw tightened. That's not the point, Lisa. Rules exist for a reason. He turned back to Maria. We'll discuss this further after your meeting. For now, keep him out of sight, and this cannot happen again. As Richard walked away, Maria exhaled slowly, trying to calm her nerves. Jaden looked up at her with worry in his eyes. Am I getting you in trouble, Mom? Maria squeezed his shoulder. No, honey. It's not your fault at all. Mr. Parker is just doing his job, making sure everyone follows the rules. And sometimes adults have to bend rules when there's an emergency. For the next hour, Maria tried to focus on finalizing her presentation while keeping Jaden entertained. He was being exceptionally good, even helping her organize some folders by color. When it was time for her meeting, Lisa came over as promised. We'll be fine, Lisa assured her. Go knock 'em dead. Maria's presentation went well. The potential clients seemed impressed with her thorough analysis and recommendations. For those 90 minutes, she was able to focus completely on her work, pushing aside her worries about Jaden and Richard's reaction. When she returned to her desk, her heart warmed at the sight of Jaden and Lisa laughing quietly over something on his tablet. Lisa gave her a thumbs up. He's a great kid, Maria, smart as a whip, too. He was helping me calculate some spreadsheet formulas. Thank you so much, Lisa. I owe you lunch, at least. Don't mention it. We parents have to stick together. The rest of the afternoon passed without incident. Jaden remained well-behaved even when Maria had to step away briefly for other meetings. She began to hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd get through this day unscathed. That hope vanished at 3:45 p.m. when Richard appeared at her cubicle again, his expression even more serious than before. Maria, I need to see you in my office now. Jaden looked up from his drawing, sensing the tension. Mom, it's okay, sweetie. Stay right here and keep working on your picture. I'll be back soon, Maria said, trying to keep her voice light. As she followed Richard to his office, Maria steeled herself for what was coming. The glass-walled room at the end of the hallway had always seemed intimidating, but never more so than now. Richard closed the door behind them and motioned for her to sit. Maria, I've always valued your work ethic and contributions to this team, he began, his tone formal and cold. But today's situation is simply unacceptable. I understand, Mr. Parker, and I apologize. It truly was an emergency situation with no alternatives. It won't happen again. That's right, it won't, Richard said firmly, because I'm giving you a choice. Either take your son home right now or consider your employment with Carson Financial terminated. Maria felt as though the floor had dropped beneath her. Terminated? For a one-time childcare emergency? For violating company policy and creating potential liability issues, Richard corrected. My decision is final. Maria sat frozen, her mind racing through the implications. She was a single mother with rent due next week. Her savings would barely last a month. But she couldn't leave Jaden alone, and she had no one else to call. I understand, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll clear out my desk. As Maria walked back to her cubicle, her legs felt heavy. How would she tell Jaden? How would they manage? She'd have to start job hunting immediately. but finding a new position could take weeks or months. When she reached her desk, Jaden looked up with a proud smile, holding up his drawing. It showed Maria in a business suit standing in front of a rocket with the words, "My mom, superworker and best mom," written across the top. "I made this for you," he said excitedly. Lisa helped me with the spelling. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she took the drawing, but she quickly blinked them away. "It's beautiful, honey. Thank you." She took a deep breath. "Listen, we need to pack up. We're going home early today. Did I do something wrong?" Jaden asked, his smile fading. Maria knelt beside him, looking directly into his worried eyes. "No, sweetheart. You did absolutely everything right. This isn't about you at all. Sometimes grown-up jobs have rules that don't always make sense when real life happens. But we're going to be okay. We always figure things out, don't we?" As they packed up Jaden's books and supplies, Maria tried to keep her movements slow and calm, despite the storm raging inside her. Lisa watched them from her cubicle, her expression a mix of concern and anger on Maria's behalf. "This isn't right," Lisa whispered as Maria gathered her personal items. "It's okay," Maria replied, though they both knew it wasn't. "Thanks for everything today. Jaden really liked you?" The drive home was quiet. Maria tried to focus on the road while her mind raced through budget calculations and job search strategies. Jaden seemed to sense her distress and remained unusually silent, looking out the window at the passing buildings. "Mom," he finally said as they pulled into their apartment complex. "I'm sorry you lost your job because of me." Maria parked the car and turned to face him. "Listen to me, Jaden. This was not your fault. Not one bit. You were perfect today. Sometimes life throws us curveballs and we just have to swing as hard as we can. We're a team, you and me, and we'll figure this out together." Jaden nodded but didn't look convinced. "How about pizza tonight?" Maria suggested, forcing brightness into her voice. "We can call it our new adventure dinner." "With extra cheese?" Jaden asked, a small smile returning. "Definitely extra cheese," Maria confirmed. As they walked hand in hand to their apartment, Maria fought to keep her composure. Tomorrow she would panic, tomorrow she would cry, tomorrow she would start the exhausting process of finding a new job. But tonight she would be strong for Jaden. Tonight they would have pizza with extra cheese and talk about space and rockets and dreams that seemed suddenly much further away. The next morning, Maria sat at her small kitchen table with a cup of coffee, her laptop open to a job search website. She had been up since 5 a.m., updating her resume and searching for administrative positions. The apartment was quiet. Jaden was still asleep, and she wanted to get as much done as possible before he woke up. Her mother had called last night, still sick but overwhelmed with guilt when she heard what had happened. "You should have told me how serious it was," she had said. "I would have taken him anyway." "And then he would be sick too," Maria had replied. "It's not your fault, Mom." Now, scanning through job listings, Maria felt a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. Most positions required immediate availability for interviews, and she would need to figure out childcare for those as well. Her severance from Carson Financial was minimal, just 2 weeks' pay. After that, things would get tight very quickly. The sound of shuffling feet made her look up. Jaden stood in the doorway in his rocket ship pajamas, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, Space Cadet," she said, closing her laptop. "Ready for some breakfast?" "Are you going to work today?" he asked, climbing onto a chair. Maria poured him a bowl of cereal. "Not today. Remember how I told you yesterday that I'm not working at Carson Financial anymore? I'm going to be looking for a new job. So you get to stay home with me?" His face brightened. For a little while, she nodded. "Grandma's still sick, so you'll be home today too. We'll have a work day together. You can do some of your school assignments, and I'll work on finding a new job." After breakfast, Maria set up a workspace for Jaden at one end of the table. His teacher had sent some assignments through their online portal that he could work on. Maria returned to her job search, bookmarking promising listings and sending out applications. By noon, she had applied to 7 positions. One in particular caught her eye, an administrative coordinator role at Horizon Solutions, a growing tech company downtown. The position offered slightly less pay than her previous job, but mentioned a supportive and flexible work environment that intrigued her. She spent extra time crafting her cover letter for that one. "Mom, I'm hungry," Jaden announced, pushing aside his tablet. "Let's have lunch then. How about sandwiches?" As they ate, Maria's phone rang. It was Lisa from Carson Financial. "How are you holding up?" Lisa asked when Maria answered. "Taking it one step at a time," Maria replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "Already applying for new positions. I just wanted you to know that a bunch of us talked to HR about what happened." Richard was completely out of line. Maria appreciated the support but knew it wouldn't change anything. "Thanks, Lisa, that means a lot. Several of us are ready to vouch for you as references," Lisa continued. "Just let me know when you need us. And by the way, everyone's saying that Richard looked terrible in front of the big bosses when they found out he fired one of our best team members right before the quarter closes." That, at least, gave Maria a small sense of satisfaction. After ending the call, she returned to her job search with renewed determination. The next few days fell into a routine. Maria's mother recovered enough to take Jaden during the mornings, while Maria went to the library to use their free internet and printer. In the afternoons, they would work side by side at the kitchen table, Maria applying for jobs and following up on applications, Jaden doing his schoolwork. By the end of the first week, Maria had sent out 23 applications and received responses from only 4. 2 were rejections and 2 were requests for interviews. One interview was with a small accounting firm that seemed promising but mentioned occasional late hours. The other was with Horizon Solutions, the tech company she had been particularly interested in. "I got an interview at Horizon Solutions," she told Jaden excitedly after receiving the email. "It's next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Is that good?" Jaden asked, looking up from his math worksheet. "Very good. Their website looks really interesting. They make software that helps other companies be more efficient. And they have great reviews from people who work there." Preparing for the interviews consumed the next few days. Maria researched both companies extensively, practiced her answers to common interview questions, and agonized over what to wear. Her mother agreed to watch Jaden during both interviews, though Maria worried about imposing too much while she was still recovering. The interview at the accounting firm came first on Monday. It went reasonably well, though Maria had concerns about the work culture when the manager mentioned their dedication to client needs above all else, and team members who don't watch the clock. Still, she couldn't afford to be too selective. That night, Maria ironed her best blouse for the Horizon interview. Jaden sat on her bed watching her prepare. "Are you nervous, Mom?" "A little," she admitted. "It's always scary to meet new people who might become your boss." "You should show them your superpowers," Jaden suggested seriously. Maria smiled. "What superpowers are those?" "You know, how you can make perfect peanut butter sandwiches and help with homework and fix the sink when it's broken and remember all the planets in order. That's a lot of superpowers." Maria hung up her blouse and sat beside him on the bed. "Those are pretty good powers, huh? Maybe I'll tell them about those tomorrow." "And tell them I said you're the best mom and worker ever," Jaden added with a definitive nod. The next morning, Maria dropped Jaden at her mother's apartment before heading downtown to Horizon Solutions. The company occupied 2 floors in a modern building with lots of glass and open spaces. The reception area featured colorful furniture, plants, and a wall display showcasing the company's achievements and mission statement. "Technology that serves people, not the other way around," a friendly receptionist greeted her. "You must be Maria Gonzalez. Welcome to Horizon. Let me show you to the interview room." Rather than the formal conference room Maria expected, she was led to a comfortable sitting area with couches and armchairs. "James will be with you shortly," the receptionist said. "Would you like some water or coffee while you wait?" "Water would be great, thank you." Left alone, Maria took deep breaths to calm her nerves. She had researched the company thoroughly and was impressed by their innovative products and apparent employee satisfaction. The salary range was slightly below what she had been making. But if the work environment was truly as supportive as it seemed, it might be worth it. After a few minutes, a man in his early 40s walked in. He wore dark jeans and a button-up shirt without a tie, much more casual than the suits at Carson Financial. He had a friendly face with laugh lines around his eyes and carried a tablet. "Maria Gonzalez? I'm James Chen, CEO of Horizon Solutions. It's great to meet you." He extended his hand with a warm smile. Maria stood to shake his hand, surprised. "The CEO? I was expecting to meet with HR or the administrative team lead." James gestured for her to sit. "I like to be involved in all key hires. Based on your resume, you'd be working closely with my team, so I wanted to meet you personally." The interview began with standard questions about Maria's experience and skills. James seemed genuinely interested in her responses, asking thoughtful follow-up questions and taking notes. She found herself relaxing as they talked, impressed by his engaged management style. "Your qualifications are excellent," James said after they had covered her work history. "You clearly have the administrative and organizational skills we need. Now tell me, what are you looking for in your next position? What matters most to you in a workplace?" Maria considered her answer carefully. "Honestly, I'm looking for a place where hard work is valued, but where there's also understanding that employees have lives outside work. I believe I can be extremely effective and dedicated while still balancing my responsibilities as a single parent." James nodded. "That makes sense. Can I ask why you left your last position? Your resume shows you were there for nearly 4 years. This was the question Maria had been dreading. She could give a vague answer about seeking new opportunities, but something about James's straightforward approach made her want to be honest. "I was let go," she said, meeting his eyes. "My childcare arrangements fell through suddenly. Both my mother, who usually watches my son, became ill, and his after-school program closed unexpectedly due to facility issues. I had an important client presentation that day, so I brought my son to the office. He was quiet and well-behaved, but it violated company policy. My department head gave me the choice to leave immediately with my son or be terminated." She paused, then added, "I understand the policy exists for good reasons, but as a single mother, I had run out of options that day. My son is my priority, so I left." The room fell silent. James had stopped taking notes and was looking at her with an unreadable expression. Maria's heart sank. She had been too honest, and now this opportunity would vanish too. "How old is your son?" James finally asked. 8, Maria answered, confused by the question. James set down his tablet and leaned forward slightly. "About 30 years ago, my mother was in almost exactly your position," he said quietly. "She was a single parent working as an administrative assistant at a manufacturing company. I was 7. Her childcare fell through. In her case, I had strep throat and couldn't go to school. But she had an important inventory shipment arriving that day." Maria listened, surprised by this personal turn in the conversation. "She took me to work with her," James continued, "set me up in a corner of her office with books and quiet toys. But unlike your situation, her boss, an older man named Mr. Dawson, had a different reaction. When he saw me there, he asked my mother about the situation. Then he found a small folding table and set it up as my own desk next to hers." James smiled at the memory. "He even gave me some paper with the company letterhead and told me I was hired as a special consultant for the day. I felt so important. My mother was able to do her job, and I got to see how hard she worked to support us." Maria felt a lump forming in her throat but remained professional. "That's a wonderful story. Your mother was fortunate to have such an understanding employer." "She was," James nodded, "and that experience shaped how I view the workplace. Mr. Dawson understood something fundamental that your previous employer clearly didn't, that employees aren't just workers. They're whole people with lives and responsibilities. When you support them as whole people, they become more loyal, more productive, and happier in their work." He picked up his tablet again. "So when you say you were terminated for bringing your child to work during an emergency, that tells me more about your previous employer's values than it does about you." Relief washed over Maria, but she remained cautious. One understanding CEO didn't necessarily mean the entire company culture would be supportive. "What's your son's name?" James asked. "Jaden," Maria replied with a smile. "He's obsessed with space and wants to be an astronaut. Ambitious. I like that." James made a note on his tablet. "Let me tell you a bit more about how we operate here at Horizon." He explained that the company had several family-friendly policies, including flexible work hours, the option to work remotely when needed, and even an emergency childcare room they had set up after an employee survey identified childcare issues as a major stress point. "We found that addressing these basic needs actually improved our productivity and reduced turnover," James explained. "It's not charity, it's good business." The conversation shifted to the specific role Maria was interviewing for, and they discussed the responsibilities and expectations in detail. By the end of the interview, Maria felt both hopeful and realistic. The position seemed like a good fit, but she knew there were likely other candidates. As they stood to conclude the meeting, James extended his hand again. "One last question, Maria. When could you start?" Maria blinked in surprise. Are you offering me the position? I am, James confirmed with a smile. Your qualifications are excellent. Your references spoke very highly of you. And frankly, I believe people who have overcome challenges often bring valuable perspective to the workplace. So when can you join us? I could start immediately, Maria managed, trying to maintain her composure despite her excitement and relief. Perfect. Our HR director will contact you this afternoon with the formal offer and paperwork. We typically do a week of training and orientation, so let's say next Monday for your official start date. Maria nodded, unable to stop the smile spreading across her face. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Mr. Chen. James, please. And thank you for your honesty. Welcome to Horizon Solutions, Maria. As Maria left the building, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. She had been prepared for weeks or even months of job searching, dwindling savings, and mounting stress. Instead, less than 2 weeks after being fired, she had found not just a new job, but potentially a better one. She immediately called her mother to share the news. They offered me the job. I start on Monday. Oh, honey, that's wonderful. Her mother exclaimed. Jaden will be so proud. Is he there? Can I talk to him? A moment later, Jaden's voice came on the line. Mom, did you get the job? I did, Space Cadet. And guess what? The boss there was once a little boy who had to go to work with his mom too, just like you did. Really? Did he get his mom in trouble? No, his mom's boss was very nice about it. And now that he's grown up and has his own company, he tries to be nice to parents who work for him too. That's cool, Jaden said. Does this mean we can have celebration pizza again? Maria laughed. Absolutely, with extra cheese. I'll pick you up soon and we can celebrate. As she ended the call and headed toward the bus stop, Maria felt something she hadn't experienced since that fateful day at Carson Financial: hope. This new job wouldn't solve all their problems, but it was a fresh start with a company that seemed to value work-life balance. For the first time in 2 weeks, Maria allowed herself to believe that everything might truly be okay. The bus arrived, and as Maria boarded, she thought about James Chen's story. How different would her life have been if Richard had reacted like Mr. Dawson, and how many other working parents were struggling with the impossible choice between their children and their livelihoods. These thoughts stayed with her as the bus made its way through the city streets. By the time she arrived at her mother's apartment, Maria had already begun mentally preparing for her new role. But more importantly, she was ready to tell Jaden that their new adventure was turning out better than they could have hoped. The weekend before Maria's first day at Horizon Solutions passed in a blur of preparation. She organized her work clothes, bought a new planner, and talked through morning routines with Jaden. Her mother was feeling much better and had insisted on watching Jaden for the first week, while Maria adjusted to her new job. I want everything to go perfectly, Maria told Jaden on Sunday night as she packed her lunch for the next day. New beginnings don't come along very often. Will you have your own desk? Jaden asked, sitting at the kitchen table drawing rockets. I think so, and maybe a computer that's newer than the ancient one at Carson Financial, Maria replied with a smile. Can I see it someday? Maria paused, the memory of her last workplace experience still fresh. Maybe. We'll see how things go there first. Monday morning arrived with both excitement and nerves. Maria dressed carefully in a dark blue pantsuit, professional but not too formal based on what she'd seen at Horizon during her interview. Jaden insisted on helping by making her a good luck card, which she tucked into her purse. Be good for Grandma, Maria said, kissing the top of Jaden's head. I'll tell you all about my first day when I get home. What if something goes wrong and I need you? Jaden asked, his voice small. The events at Carson Financial had clearly affected him too. Maria knelt to his level. Grandma has my new work number and you can always call me if it's really important. But remember, most problems can wait until after work, okay? And this company seems different, more understanding about family stuff. Jaden nodded, seemingly reassured. Maria gave him one more hug before heading out the door, determined to make this new opportunity work. Horizon Solutions' office was already buzzing with activity when Maria arrived. The receptionist she'd met during her interview greeted her warmly. Welcome to your first day. I'll take you to HR to get started on paperwork, and then James wants to introduce you to the team. The morning passed quickly with orientation activities. setting up her computer and accounts and meeting various department heads. Everyone was welcoming, and Maria was struck by the casual but focused atmosphere. People seemed genuinely engaged in their work, rather than watching the clock or trying to impress managers. Around noon, James Chen appeared at her new desk, which was situated in an open area near several team leads she would be supporting. "How's the first day going?" he asked. "Wonderful," Maria replied honestly. "Everyone's been so helpful. Great to hear. I wanted to give you a personal tour of the office, including some areas you might not see during regular orientation." As they walked through the various departments, James explained the company's projects and growth plans. Maria was impressed by his detailed knowledge of every aspect of the business. It wasn't just for show. He genuinely seemed to know all his employees and understand their work. Near the end of the tour, James led her down a hallway she hadn't seen before. "And this is something I wanted to show you specifically," he said, opening a door. Inside was a medium-sized room with colorful furniture, bookshelves filled with children's books, a computer station, and various toys and games. A small table had art supplies neatly organized, and there was even a comfortable-looking couch in one corner. "This is our emergency childcare room," James explained. "We created it about 2 years ago after several employees mentioned childcare challenges in our annual survey. It's not meant to be a regular daycare. We still encourage proper childcare arrangements. But when emergencies happen, we'd rather our team members bring their kids here than miss work or stress about finding last-minute solutions." Maria walked around the room, taking it all in. "This is amazing. I've never seen anything like this in a workplace before. It's been used more than we expected," James said. "School closures, sick nannies, summer vacation gaps, all those situations that parents can't always control. We have basic rules. The parent checks in regularly, older kids can work quietly on schoolwork, younger ones need more direct supervision. It's not perfect, but it helps. I wish Carson Financial had something like this," Maria said quietly. James nodded. Most companies still see childcare as entirely the employee's problem. They don't realize that supporting employees through these challenges actually improves retention and productivity. He paused. "When I told my mother I was creating this room, she cried. She remembered all the time she had to choose between being there for me and keeping her job." As they left the room, James added, "Feel free to show this to your son when appropriate. I meant what I said in your interview. We value employees as whole people here." Maria returned to her desk feeling even more optimistic about her new workplace. The afternoon went smoothly as she began learning her duties, which involved coordinating schedules and communications for several project teams. By the end of her first day, she had already identified several processes she could improve. When she picked up Jaden from her mother's apartment that evening, he was full of questions. "How was it? Is everyone nice? Did you get your own desk? Did you have to go to any meetings? Did you tell them I'm good at space stuff?" Maria laughed at his enthusiasm. "One question at a time. Yes, everyone is very nice. Yes, I have my own desk with a new computer. I went to one meeting to meet the teams I'll be working with. And I might have mentioned you're our family's resident space expert." "Really?" Jaden beamed. "Really? And guess what? They have a special room for kids whose parents work there, for emergencies when regular childcare doesn't work out." Jaden's eyes widened. "Like what happened at your old job?" "Exactly. The boss, James, he told me that when he was a kid he had to go to work with his mom once too. And now that he runs his own company, he made sure other parents and kids wouldn't get in trouble for that." "He sounds awesome," Jaden declared. "He seems to be," Maria agreed. "But let's not test it too soon, okay? Grandma is still our plan A for childcare." The first week flew by as Maria learned her new role and began to feel part of the Horizon team. The company culture was refreshingly different from Carson Financial, more collaborative, less hierarchical, and with a genuine emphasis on work-life balance. People regularly mentioned their families or outside interests, and no one gave judgmental looks when someone left at 5 p.m. sharp. By Friday, Maria had already implemented several organizational improvements that her team leaders appreciated. As she was preparing to leave for the weekend, James stopped by her desk. "How was your first week?" "Better than I could have imagined," Maria said sincerely. "I feel like I can actually contribute here without worrying that family responsibilities make me less valuable." "That's exactly the environment we try to create," James replied. "By the way, we're having a company picnic next month. Family's welcome. I hope you and Jaden can join us." "We'd love to. Maria said, touched by the inclusion of Jaden in the invitation. Over the weekend, Maria and Jaden celebrated her successful first week with a trip to the Science Museum. As they explored the space exhibition, Jaden's favorite, Maria felt a sense of security she hadn't experienced in a long time. The financial strain of her brief unemployment had been stressful, but more than that, the constant worry about balancing work and motherhood had taken a toll. At Horizon, that balance seemed not just possible but encouraged. The following weeks brought new challenges as Maria fully took on her responsibilities, but she thrived in the supportive environment. Her organizational skills were valued, and several team leads specifically requested her assistance with their projects. She worked efficiently during office hours so she could leave on time to pick up Jaden from her mother's or his after-school program. One Tuesday, about a month into her new job, Maria received a call from her mother just before lunch. "I'm so sorry, Maria, but I've got a doctor's appointment this afternoon that completely slipped my mind. It's a specialist I've been waiting to see for months, so I can't reschedule." "Don't worry, Mom," Maria assured her. "What time is your appointment?" "It's at 2:30, and you know how they always run late." "I probably won't be done until after Jaden's school ends," Maria thought quickly. The after-school program required advance notice for drop-ins, and none of her neighbors would be home this early. Under normal circumstances, this would be a crisis requiring her to leave work early, but now, "I'll figure something out, Mom. You focus on your appointment." After hanging up, Maria took a deep breath and walked to her supervisor's desk. Tina was a project manager who had been especially welcoming since Maria joined. "Tina, I have a childcare issue this afternoon. My mom has a doctor's appointment and can't pick up my son from school. Would it be possible for me to bring him here for a couple of hours? I know about the emergency childcare room, but I wanted to check protocols first." Tina didn't even hesitate. "Absolutely. We just need to note it in the room's calendar so it doesn't get double booked. How old is your son?" 8. "He's very well behaved and can do homework quietly." "That's perfect. I've had to bring my daughter a few times. She's 10. The room works great for school-age kids who can entertain themselves a bit." Tina pulled up a calendar on her computer. "Let me reserve it for you from 3:30 to 5:30? That would be great. Thank you so much. No problem. That's what the room is there for." The ease of the conversation amazed Maria. No judgment, no hesitation, just practical solutions. She returned to her desk and texted Jaden's teacher that she would pick him up from school herself. That afternoon, Maria left slightly early to get Jaden from school. On the drive back to Horizon, she explained the situation. "Remember I told you about the special room at my work for when childcare plans change? We're going to try it out today. You'll need to do your homework and be quiet, just like you were at my old job." "Will I get to see your new office?" Jaden asked excitedly. "Yes, and you might meet some of my co-workers too. Just remember, it's still a place where people are working." "I'll be super good," Jaden promised. When they arrived at Horizon, Maria felt a flutter of anxiety, memories of Richard's reaction still fresh, but reminded herself that this was different. She signed Jaden in at reception, where he received a visitor badge that he proudly clipped to his shirt. "Looking very official there," the receptionist commented with a smile. Maria showed Jaden her desk first, then introduced him to a few nearby coworkers, all of whom greeted him warmly. Finally, she took him to the emergency childcare room, which was currently empty. "This is where you'll stay while I finish my workday," she explained, showing him the books and activities available. "I've brought your homework, and there's a computer if you need it for school stuff. I'll be at my desk if you need anything, and I'll check on you regularly." "This is way cooler than sitting by your desk at the old place," Jaden observed, already exploring the bookshelves. "It is, isn't it?" Maria agreed. Different companies have different ways of handling these situations. She got him settled with his homework, then returned to her desk to complete her afternoon tasks. Every half hour she checked on him, finding him either working diligently or reading one of the space books he'd discovered on the shelf. Around 5 p.m., as Maria was wrapping up for the day, James Chen walked by her desk. "Productive afternoon?" he asked. "Very," Maria replied. "And actually, I have someone here I'd like you to meet. If you have a moment." She led James to the childcare room, where Jaden was now drawing at the art table. "Jaden, this is Mr. Chen, the CEO I told you about." "Mr. Chen, this is my son, Jaden." Jaden stood up politely. "Hello, Mr. Chen. Thank you for letting kids come here when there's emergencies. James smiled and shook Jaden's hand. You're very welcome, Jaden. I'm glad it's helpful. I hear you're interested in space? Jaden's face lit up. Yes, I'm going to be an astronaut and go to Mars someday. That's an excellent goal, James said seriously. We need brave explorers to help us understand our universe. He turned to Maria. Everything working out okay with the room? Perfectly, she assured him. It's been a lifesaver today. My mother had an unexpected doctor's appointment. That's exactly why we created it, James replied. Better to have you here with your son nearby than missing work entirely or worrying about him. After James left, Maria and Jaden packed up to head home. As they walked to the car, Jaden looked thoughtful. Mom? That man was a kid who had to go to his mom's work too, right? That's right. And now he's the boss of the whole company? Maria nodded. He worked hard and built this company from scratch. Jaden considered this. So maybe someday I could be a boss too? Or an astronaut boss? Absolutely, Maria said, squeezing his hand. You can be anything you work toward. And hopefully, by the time you're grown up, even more workplaces will understand that employees have families and lives outside of work. As they drove home, Maria reflected on how different this experience had been compared to Carson Financial. The emergency childcare room wasn't just a physical space. It was a statement about company values. It said that Horizon Solutions recognized employees as whole people with responsibilities beyond their jobs, and that recognition, that simple act of understanding, made all the difference in how she felt about her work. For the first time since becoming a single mother, Maria felt like she didn't have to choose between being a good employee and being a good parent. At Horizon, she could be both, and that realization filled her with a profound sense of gratitude, not just for her new job, but for the second chance it represented. 3 months after starting at Horizon Solutions, Maria sat in the company's main conference room, taking notes during a quarterly planning meeting. She had settled into her role as administrative coordinator smoothly, earning praise for her organization and efficiency. Today, department heads were presenting their goals for the coming quarter, and as the newest member of the administrative team, Maria was responsible for documenting the meeting. Before we wrap up, James Chen said as the last presenter finished, I want to discuss an initiative that's been in the works for a few weeks. Maria, this actually relates to some observations you made in your first month here. Maria looked up in surprise. During her second week, she had mentioned to her supervisor that the emergency childcare room, while incredibly helpful, could be better utilized with some improvements. She hadn't expected her feedback to reach James. As many of you know, our emergency childcare room has been one of our most appreciated employee benefits, James continued, but we've identified ways to make it even more effective. Maria, would you mind sharing the suggestions you made? I think they're worth considering company-wide. Put on the spot, Maria gathered her thoughts quickly. Of course. Based on my own experience and conversations with other parents here, I noticed 3 main areas for improvement. First, the room is sometimes double-booked because the calendar system isn't synchronized with our main scheduling platform. Second, for parents with younger children who need more supervision, it's difficult to work productively while also watching their child. And third, the room lacks some basic supplies that would make it more functional for different age groups. James nodded encouragingly. And what solutions did you propose? I suggested integrating the room's calendar with our main scheduling system for better visibility. For the supervision issue, I thought we could create a volunteer system where employees could sign up for shifts to help monitor children when parents need to attend meetings or focus on deadline-sensitive work. And for supplies, I compiled a list of age-appropriate materials based on input from parents across different departments. Excellent summary, James said. These are practical improvements that address real needs. I've reviewed the proposals with HR, and we're planning to implement all of them. We're also considering designating a part-time role for coordinating these resources, essentially a family support coordinator position. Maria jotted down notes, impressed that her suggestions had been taken so seriously. In her experience at Carson Financial, feedback from administrative staff was rarely considered for company-wide initiatives. After the meeting, James asked Maria to stay behind. Your input on the childcare room improvements has been invaluable, he said once they were alone. It made me realize we need someone who understands the challenges of balancing work and family to help shape our policies. Would you be interested in helping develop this new family support initiative, in addition to your current duties? It would come with a title change and a salary adjustment, of course. Maria was momentarily speechless. Yes, I would be very interested. Thank you for considering me. Great, let's set up a time to discuss the details. I think your perspective as both an employee and a parent gives you unique insight. As Maria left the conference room, she felt a wave of validation. Not only were her organizational skills being recognized, but her experience as a working mother, the very thing that had cost her previous job, was now seen as an asset. That evening, as Maria and Jaden ate dinner, she told him about the meeting. So Mr. Chen liked your ideas about the kid room? Jaden asked, pushing his broccoli around his plate. He did, and he's asked me to help make it even better, along with other things to support families. Jaden considered this while reluctantly eating a piece of broccoli. That's pretty cool. Most grown-ups don't listen to other grown-ups' ideas, Maria laughed. Sometimes they don't. But good bosses listen to everyone's ideas because good ideas can come from anywhere. Like how my teacher, Mrs. Lee, used my idea about the class pet feeding chart. Exactly like that. The next few weeks were busy as Maria balanced her regular duties with planning meetings for the Family Support Initiative. She researched best practices at other companies and collected input from Horizon employees with children. To her surprise, many colleagues eagerly shared their experiences and challenges, clearly appreciative that the company was addressing these issues. One Thursday afternoon, Maria was working at her desk when she received an unexpected visitor. Lisa, her former coworker from Carson Financial, stood by the reception desk waving as Maria looked up. "Lisa, what are you doing here?" Maria exclaimed, hurrying over to greet her. "I was in the building for a client meeting and thought I'd surprise you," Lisa explained as they hugged. "I wanted to see how you're doing at your new job." "Looks like a nice place. It's amazing. Let me show you around," Maria offered. She gave Lisa a quick tour of the office, introducing her to a few colleagues along the way. "Everyone seems so relaxed," Lisa observed. "Not like the constant tension at Carson." "It's a completely different culture," Maria agreed. "People work hard, but there's also respect for personal boundaries and circumstances." She hesitated, then added, "Would you like to see something really cool?" Maria led Lisa to the emergency childcare room, which was currently being used by one of the developers who had his 4-year-old daughter with him. The little girl was coloring at the art table while her father worked on his laptop nearby. "This is our emergency childcare room," Maria explained, "for when regular childcare falls through." Lisa looked around in amazement. "You're kidding me. They have this just available all the time?" "Yep, and I'm actually working on expanding it into a broader family support program." The developer noticed them and waved. "Maria, is this your son's artwork?" he asked, pointing to a colorful drawing of planets pinned to a bulletin board. "It is," Maria confirmed. "Jaden was here last month when my mother had a doctor's appointment." After they left the room, Lisa shook her head in disbelief. "If we had something like this at Carson, you'd still have your old job." "Maybe. But honestly, I'm glad things worked out this way. This place is a much better fit for me." They chatted for a few more minutes before Lisa had to leave for another meeting. "By the way," she said as they walked back to reception, "things have been tense at Carson since you left. 2 more people in our department quit last month, and Richard is under pressure from upper management about turnover rates. Word got around about why you left and it didn't make him look good." Maria felt a twinge of satisfaction but no real joy in her former boss's troubles. "I hope things improve there. For everyone's sake." After Lisa left, Maria returned to her work with renewed appreciation for Horizon's approach. She had experienced both ends of the spectrum, a workplace that treated employees as replaceable cogs, and one that valued them as whole people with lives beyond their jobs. The following week, Maria had her formal meeting with James and the HR director to discuss the expanded Family Support Initiative. They presented her with a new role, Family Support Program Coordinator, a position that would be part-time initially, allowing her to maintain some of her administrative duties. "We see this as potentially growing into a full-time position as the program expands," the HR director explained. "The salary adjustment reflects both the added responsibility and our recognition of your contributions so far." Maria looked at the proposed salary figure and had to work to keep her expression professional. It was a significant increase, more than she'd been making at Carson Financial even before accounting for her other benefits. "I'm honored by the opportunity. she said sincerely, and excited to help build something that could make a real difference for working parents here. It already has, James said. Since implementing the emergency childcare room 2 years ago, we've seen reduced absenteeism and improved retention rates among parents. But your insights have shown us we can do more. This isn't just about being nice. It's about creating systems that allow our talented people to contribute fully without sacrificing their family responsibilities. As the meeting concluded, James added, "By the way, Maria, we're having executives from several partner companies tour our office next month. I'd like you to present the Family Support Program as one of our innovative approaches to workplace culture. Your personal experience makes you the perfect ambassador for this initiative." "I'd be happy to," Maria replied, though the thought of presenting to executives made her slightly nervous. That evening, Maria picked up Jaden from her mother's apartment with a spring in her step. "Guess what?" she told them both. "I got a promotion today. I'm going to be coordinating family support programs at Horizon." "That's wonderful, honey," her mother exclaimed. "Does that mean you're the boss of the kid room now?" Jaden asked. Maria laughed. "Something like that. And it comes with a raise, which means we might be able to look for a bigger apartment when our lease is up." "One with a room just for space stuff?" Jaden asked hopefully. "We'll see. Maybe not a whole room, but definitely more space than you have now." Over dinner at her mother's, they celebrated Maria's promotion. As they ate, her mother grew thoughtful. "You know, when you lost your job at Carson Financial, I was so worried for you. It seemed so unfair. But looking at you now," she reached across the table to squeeze Maria's hand, "sometimes what feels like our worst moment turns out to be just the push we needed towards something better." Maria nodded, thinking about how dramatically her professional life had changed in just a few months. "I never would have applied to Horizon if I hadn't been let go from Carson. And even if I had, I might not have appreciated how special their approach is without experiencing the opposite first. And I wouldn't get to go to the cool kid room," Jaden added practically. They all laughed, and Maria ruffled his hair. "That too, Space Cadet." In the weeks that followed, Maria threw herself into developing the expanded family support program. She created a more robust scheduling system for the childcare room, organized the volunteer monitoring program, and began planning additional resources like a parent networking group and a resource library. She also prepared for her presentation to the visiting executives, working with the marketing team to create compelling visuals that highlighted the business benefits alongside the human impact. The day before the executive tour, Maria received a surprising email from James Chen. "Just a heads up," it read. "One of the executives visiting tomorrow is Robert Thompson, the CEO of Carson Financial Services. I wasn't aware of your history with the company when we scheduled this. If you're uncomfortable presenting with him in the audience, we can have someone else cover that portion." Maria stared at the screen, her heart racing. Robert Thompson was Richard's boss, the CEO of her former company. The thought of presenting to him made her nervous, but after a moment's reflection, she typed her reply. "Thank you for the consideration, but I'm comfortable proceeding as planned. My experience at Carson actually helps illustrate why these programs are so valuable." James responded almost immediately. "I thought you might say that. Your professionalism continues to impress me. See you tomorrow." That night, Maria rehearsed her presentation several times in her living room, with Jaden as her audience. "You're really good at explaining stuff, Mom," he said after her final run-through. "Just don't talk as fast when you do it for real." "I'll try to slow down," she promised, grateful for his honest feedback. "Now bedtime for you? I need to be well rested for tomorrow." As she tucked him in, Jaden asked, "Are you nervous about talking to your old boss's boss?" Maria considered the question. "A little. But mostly I'm excited to share how important these programs are. Maybe it will help other companies think differently about supporting parents. Like how my old teacher finally got a class pet after visiting Mrs. Lee's classroom and seeing our feeding chart." "That's a perfect example," Maria said, impressed by his insight. "Sometimes seeing something work well can change people's minds about trying it themselves." The next morning, Maria dressed carefully in her most professional outfit and arrived at work early to make final preparations. The executive tour was scheduled for 11 a.m., with her presentation on the family support program coming near the end. As the time approached, she waited in the conference room reviewing her notes one last time. The group entered, James Chen leading about a dozen people in business attire. Maria immediately recognized Robert Thompson from company photos at Carson Financial, a tall man with silver hair and an imposing presence. He showed no sign of recognizing her, which wasn't surprising given the size of Carson Financial and the fact that they'd never directly interacted during her time there. James introduced Maria to the group. "This is Maria Gonzalez, our Family Support Program Coordinator. She's developing an initiative that we believe gives Horizon a significant competitive advantage in recruiting and retaining top talent. Maria, the floor is yours." Taking a deep breath, Maria began her presentation. She explained the program's components, from the emergency childcare room to the volunteer support system to the resources for working parents. She shared data on reduced absenteeism and improved employee satisfaction scores. Throughout, she remained poised and professional, speaking with the confidence that came from truly believing in her subject. "The philosophy behind this program is simple," she concluded. "When employees don't have to choose between being good at their jobs and being good parents, everyone benefits: the employees, their families, and ultimately, the company itself." There was a moment of silence when she finished. Then Robert Thompson raised his hand. "I'm curious about the costs versus benefits," he said. "This all sounds very nice, but what's the actual return on investment?" It was the kind of question Maria had anticipated. "Great question," she replied. "We've tracked several metrics since implementing even the basic version of this program 2 years ago. Employee turnover among parents has decreased by 28%, saving an estimated $120,000 annually in recruitment and training costs. Unplanned absences have dropped by 15% across the company. And in our annual employee satisfaction survey, this program was cited as a key factor in retention by 64% of employees with children." She clicked to her next slide, which showed these figures graphically. "As for direct costs, the program requires minimal physical space and resources. The volunteer component leverages existing staff during times they would be working anyway, just in a different location. The scheduling system integrates with our existing platforms. Overall, we estimate the program costs approximately $30,000 annually while saving at least 4 times that amount in reduced turnover and absenteeism alone." Robert Thompson nodded slowly, looking thoughtful. "Interesting approach. Most companies view childcare as entirely the employee's responsibility. That's a common perspective," Maria acknowledged. "And I understand it. But what we found is that recognizing and supporting the whole person, including their family responsibilities, actually makes them more productive and loyal employees. It's not charity, it's good business." After a few more questions, the presentation concluded, and the executives moved on to the next part of their tour. James hung back briefly to give Maria a subtle thumbs up before following the group. That afternoon, Maria was surprised when her desk phone rang with a call from reception. "Maria, Robert Thompson from Carson Financial is here asking to speak with you. Should I send him up?" Curious and slightly apprehensive, Maria agreed. A few minutes later, Robert Thompson approached her desk. "Ms. Gonzalez, do you have a moment to talk privately?" he asked. "Of course," she replied, leading him to a small meeting room nearby. Once they were seated, Thompson got straight to the point. "Your presentation was excellent. Very compelling data and presentation style." "Thank you," Maria said, wondering where this was going. "James mentioned afterward that you previously worked at Carson Financial. I looked into our records and found your file. You were terminated 3 months ago following an incident involving bringing your child to work during a childcare emergency." Maria kept her expression neutral. "That's correct." Thompson leaned forward slightly. "I have to say, I was unaware of the circumstances surrounding your departure. It appears that your direct supervisor, Richard Parker, made that decision without consulting HR about possible alternatives. I believe he was following company policy," Maria said diplomatically. "Policy should guide decisions, not replace judgment," Thompson replied. "Especially when dealing with a valued employee during a one-time emergency situation." He paused. "I was impressed by the program you've developed here, and the numbers you presented were compelling. It made me wonder what other talented people we might be losing due to rigid application of policies." Maria wasn't sure how to respond, so she simply said, "I appreciate your candor." I want you to know that your situation has prompted me to review our own approaches to work-life balance. In fact, I'd be interested in consulting with you about potential improvements at Carson Financial, if you'd be open to that." The irony of the situation wasn't lost on Maria. "That's a generous offer, Mr. Thompson. I'd need to discuss any consulting work with my current employer, of course, but I'm generally supportive of companies moving in this direction." Thompson nodded and stood to leave. "James Chen is fortunate to have you on his team. Your loss was clearly our mistake and Horizon's gain." He extended his hand. "Thank you for your time today, Ms. Gonzalez." After he left, Maria sat for a moment processing the unexpected conversation. There was a certain vindication in having the CEO of her former company acknowledge the mistake. But more than that, she felt hopeful that her experience might lead to positive changes for her former colleagues. Later that afternoon, James stopped by her desk. "I saw Robert Thompson talking with you. Everything okay?" Maria smiled. "More than okay, actually. He wants to consult with me on implementing similar family support initiatives at Carson Financial." James raised his eyebrows. "Well, that's unexpected. How do you feel about it?" "Honestly, pretty good. It's not about me anymore. It's about potentially helping other working parents avoid what I went through." "That's very gracious of you," James commented. "Would you be interested in doing that consulting work? We could arrange it as part of your role here, positioning Horizon as a workplace culture leader." "I think I would," Maria replied. "If it helps change even one company's approach to working parents, it's worth it." As she drove to pick up Jaden that evening, Maria reflected on the day's events. 6 months ago, she had been devastated by losing her job, worried about supporting herself and Jaden and feeling forced to choose between being a good employee and a good mother. Now she was developing workplace policies that could help others avoid that impossible choice. When she arrived at the after-school program, Jaden ran to greet her, backpack bouncing. "How was your big presentation?" he asked as they walked to the car. "Really good," Maria told him. "And something surprising happened. The big boss from my old company was there, and he asked for my help to make their workplace better for parents." Jaden considered this as he buckled his seatbelt. "So the place that fired you now wants your help? That's weird," Maria laughed. "It is a little weird, but also kind of wonderful, don't you think? Sometimes good things can come from difficult situations." Jaden nodded sagely, "Like when I spilled juice on my space drawing and it made the nebula look even cooler." "Exactly like that," Maria agreed, starting the car. Life has a funny way of working out when you least expect it. As they drove home, Maria felt a sense of completion. Her story had come full circle, from being fired for bringing her child to work to helping create workplaces where that would never happen to another parent. It wasn't the path she would have chosen, but it had led her exactly where she needed to be. 1 year after Maria joined Horizon Solutions, the company hosted a special event to celebrate the official launch of their comprehensive family support program. What had begun as a simple emergency childcare room had evolved into a model initiative that included flexible scheduling options, parent networking groups, resources for childcare solutions, and even occasional weekend family events. The program had gained attention in the business community, with several articles featuring Horizon's innovative approach to supporting working parents. The celebration was held on a Friday afternoon in the company's largest conference room, transformed for the occasion with balloons and a small refreshment table. Employees from all departments mingled together, many with family photos displayed on a digital bulletin board that had been set up for the event. Maria stood near the front of the room, reviewing her notes for the brief presentation she would give. As Family Support Program Coordinator, now a full-time position, she had become the face of the initiative, both within Horizon and to the outside business community. In the past 6 months, she had consulted with 5 other companies, including Carson Financial Services, on implementing similar programs. "Nervous?" James Chen asked, appearing beside her with 2 cups of sparkling water. Maria accepted one gratefully. "A little. It's still strange sometimes being in front of the whole company like this." "You've earned it," James said. "This program is largely your vision. The emergency childcare room was just the starting point. You've built something truly comprehensive." Before Maria could respond, the door opened and a group of children entered, led by one of the HR assistants who had volunteered to coordinate the kids' corner for the event. Among them was Jaden, now 9 years old, who immediately spotted Maria and waved enthusiastically. "Mom, we made decorations," he called out, pointing to the colorful paper chains the children had created, now hanging along one wall. "They look amazing," Maria replied with a smile. As the room filled with employees, Maria spotted several familiar faces from her consulting work, including, surprisingly, Richard Parker, her former supervisor from Carson Financial. After Robert Thompson's visit a year ago, Carson had begun implementing their own version of family support initiatives, and Richard had been assigned to oversee parts of the transition. Their initial consultation meetings had been awkward, with Richard clearly uncomfortable facing the employee he had fired. But over time, a cautious professional respect had developed between them. James called for everyone's attention and stepped to the front of the room. "Thank you all for being here today to celebrate the official launch of Horizon's Family Support Program. What began as a simple idea that supporting our employees as whole people makes good business sense has grown into something truly special." He gestured toward Maria. "Much of the credit goes to Maria Gonzalez, who took our basic emergency childcare room and developed it into the comprehensive program we have today. Maria brings both professional expertise and personal experience to this role, and her vision has shaped every aspect of what we're celebrating. Maria, would you like to say a few words?" As Maria took her place at the front, she felt a moment of déjà vu, remembering her presentation to the visiting executives a year earlier. But now, looking out at the familiar faces of colleagues who had become friends, she felt only confidence. "Thank you all for coming today," she began. "When I joined Horizon a year ago, I was immediately impressed by the emergency childcare room. It represented something I hadn't experienced before, a workplace that recognized employees have lives and responsibilities outside the office." She gestured to the digital bulletin board displaying family photos. "Every person in this room has a life beyond these walls. We have children, parents, partners, and communities that need us. The Family Support Program is built on a simple idea that we shouldn't have to choose between being good at our jobs and being present for the people who matter most to us." Maria clicked through slides showing the program's components and impressive metrics: reduced turnover, decreased unplanned absences, and improved employee satisfaction scores. The numbers tell a compelling business story, but the human impact is even more important. I've heard from so many of you about how these resources have made a difference in your daily lives. From the parent who could finish a critical project while their child did homework in the support room, to the team that rescheduled a meeting to accommodate a school event. She paused, making eye contact with various colleagues around the room. What makes this program special isn't just the resources we provide. It's the culture we've created together. A culture that says we value each other as whole people, not just as employees. A culture that recognizes supporting families strengthens our company, rather than detracting from it. As Maria concluded her presentation, spontaneous applause filled the room. James returned to the front and raised his glass in a toast. "To Maria, to our amazing HR team who helped implement these ideas, and to all of you who have embraced this program and made it part of our company culture." After the formal presentation, people broke into groups, enjoying refreshments and conversation. Maria was chatting with several colleagues when she noticed Richard Parker standing somewhat awkwardly near the refreshment table. Making a decision, she excused herself and walked over to him. "Richard, I'm surprised to see you here. I didn't know Carson Financial was sending a representative." He shifted uncomfortably. "Robert Thompson thought it would be good for me to see the program in its fully implemented form." "We're still working on our version," Maria nodded. "How's that going?" "Slower than here, obviously. There's been some resistance from middle management." He paused, then a D.